Hello and welcome to the International Daily Roundup by People's Dispatch, where we bring you major news developments from around the world. US President Donald Trump is in London for the summit of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. He has been greeted by massive protests, mainly over the issue of the risk of privatization of the National Health Service. This issue comes from certain leaked documents which have details of US-UK trade discussions. We talked to Abdul of People's Dispatch to get an idea about what these discussions actually are.
So Abdul, protests were held in UK against Donald Trump's visit for the NATO summit, and these were being led by employees of the National Health Service who marched till the Buckingham Palace with placards saying "Trump hands off NHS." Can you tell us why these employees were protesting, what the protests are about?
NHS employees are protesting. Not only NHS employees, there are other people also, and I think Labour Party activists are also involved in it. It is primarily because there is a danger felt by the NHS employees in particular that United States is interested in buying shares or buying the public enterprises or public-led NHS in various ways. There were documents released last month by the Corbyn, which revealed that there is negotiations going on between the Conservative government and the American interests, in which basically is rooted in the idea of buying NHS. Why it is important? NHS, which is catering to the needs of 1 million patients every day, is the backbone of the working class health services, the poor and working class health services in UK. It also employs more than 1.6 million people in different ways. So, and it has survived the attempts to privatize it for last 20, 25 years, 30 years in fact, more than that, since Margaret Thatcher. So, in the current scenario, if the employees are feeling that it will be privatized and US is planning to buy it, of course they don't want it to be privatized. And US is primarily interested in NHS because NHS has 130 billion pounds sterling annual budget. So it's a huge market for American companies. So primarily, given the precarious situation of the working classes, the withdrawal of state, the only public service which survives all the attempts of neoliberalism, this is an attempt. The protests are attempts to defend it from any attempts to privatize it. But since US is the main party which is interested in buying it, privatizing it, of course people are protesting against Trump's visit. It is an attempt to say that the NHS is not for sale.
On December 3rd, thousands of Venezuelans took to the streets of Caracas against a meeting of right-wing governments in the region to consider fresh sanctions against the Bolivarian Republic. The ministerial meeting to consider the application of the Inter-American Treaty of Reciprocal Assistance, or TIAR, against Venezuela was held in Bogota in Colombia. Foreign ministers of various right-wing governments aligned with US policy and the self-proclaimed president of Venezuela, Juan Guaido, attended the meeting. In response, the people of Venezuela who support their constitutionally elected president Nicolas Maduro condemned the meeting and the aggression by the Colombian government. The TIAR was signed in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, in September 1947. It was imposed on the region by the United States at the beginning of the Cold War. It's similar to NATO, and an attack on any country on the American continent would be considered an attack on the US and its allies, and a justification to respond militarily. On September 11th this year, in an assembly of the Organization of American States, Guaido's representative proposed the activation of TIAR against Venezuela and Maduro. The proposal was accepted. It provides a legal justification for foreign military intervention in Venezuela. At that point, the measure was immediately condemned by the Bolivarian Republic, its regional allies, and social movements across the continent. And in our final story, the family of the Palestinian prisoner, Sami Abu Diak, who died of cancer in an Israeli jail on November 26, has still not received his body. Diak's family appealed to human rights organizations and other international institutions to put pressure on Israel to release his body for burial instead of keeping it in a mortuary freezer or burying it anonymously in a clandestine grave. Ahad Abu Diak, Sami's father, met with the deputy mayor of the family's hometown of Jenin on December 3rd to discuss securing his body from Israel. He urged the deputy mayor to take immediate steps to make Israel release the body before an Israeli court takes a decision regarding anonymous burial. Earlier on Monday, December 2nd, Israeli army soldiers broke into the Abu Diak family home, violently ransacking the place and causing significant damage to belongings and property. They then interrogated the family members and abducted the brother of Sami Abu Diak, Salah Abu Diak, without cause or provocation. Sami Abu Diak served 17 years in prison when he died. He was diagnosed with cancer in 2015 but was not released despite calls for the same from across the world. That's all we have in this episode of the International Daily Roundup. To know more about these stories, visit our website peoplesdispatch.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for watching.
Que vamos a triunfar.